The storm rolled over the quiet outskirts of Asheville, North Carolina, with a fury that seemed almost personal, slamming rain against the tall windows of the Whitmore estate. Inside, beneath the dim glow of a chandelier that had once belonged to a forgotten century, Claire Donovan stood with trembling hands wrapped around a mop handle. Her breath was shallow, her mind spinning, because just moments ago she had heard something that would change everything she thought she knew about her place in the world. It was a confession not meant for her ears, spoken by a woman she was never supposed to get close to. And yet, it felt like destiny had dragged her into this exact moment, refusing to let her run from the truth any longer. If you believe in kindness, redemption, or second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Claire had been working at the Whitmore estate for 7 months, far longer than she'd expected. When she first came to Asheville from small-town Nebraska, she carried nothing but a duffel bag, a broken heart, and a silent promise to herself that she would find a life worth living. The maid job wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and stability was something she hadn't felt in years. Every morning she woke before the sun, tied her deep brown hair into a loose braid, and quietly moved through the mansion's echoing halls, polishing banisters and sweeping dust the wealthy family never noticed compared to their own troubles. But everything changed the day Addison Whitmore returned home. Addison, with her honey gold hair, tailored blazers, and a reputation that followed her like a shadow, had been away for years building a business empire that newspapers liked to call the American dream. Her father's passing brought her home, back to the cold mansion that had never felt like home at all. The first time Claire saw her, Addison walked through the front door carrying exhaustion like a cloak, her eyes sharp but bruised with grief. Claire remembered lowering her gaze, as she was supposed to, but Addison had paused long enough to say, "Good morning," her voice soft, respectful, shockingly human. From that day forward, something intangible began to shift. Claire kept her distance, but Addison didn't seem to understand boundaries the way other wealthy families did. She chose to eat breakfast in the kitchen instead of the dining hall, much to the confusion of the head staff. She lingered near Claire, asking about her day in ways that felt too genuine. Claire tried to keep conversations short, to hide the warmth rising inside her, to remind herself she was the maid and nothing more. Yet, Addison smiled at her like she was something else entirely, something seen. The household whispered. Staff stole glances. Claire pretended not to hear the murmurs that a Whitmore had no business being curious about a maid. But Addison didn't seem to care about the rules that tied everyone else to their roles. One late afternoon, Claire was folding fresh linens in the side corridor when she overheard the conversation that shattered the quiet rhythm of her life. Addison was speaking to her longtime friend on the phone, her voice trembling in a way Claire had never heard before. She confessed that she felt lost, that she no longer recognized herself, that the only person who had made her feel remotely grounded since returning home was the new maid, Claire, the one with the kind eyes. Claire froze. The linen slipped from her hands. Thunder cracked overhead as if emphasizing the way her world tilted beneath her feet. She wasn't supposed to hear that. She wasn't supposed to feel her heart race with something that felt dangerously close to hope. She wasn't supposed to matter to someone like Addison Whitmore. But she did. Still, Claire tried to run from the feelings blooming in her chest. She buried herself in her work, avoided Addison's gaze, and dodged every gentle question about why she suddenly seemed distant. It didn't help that Addison had begun to heal from her grief, and Claire, somehow, had become a part of that process. Their accidental touches lingered a bit too long. Their conversations stretched past what was appropriate. And every moment felt like it was building towards something impossible. Weeks passed in a fragile dance neither dared to name. Then came the turning point. A winter fundraiser was being hosted at the estate, and Claire worked tirelessly preparing the guest rooms and shining the massive ballroom floors until they gleamed. That evening, after the guests flooded the mansion, Claire stood tucked behind a service door, watching in silence as Addison moved through the crowd in an elegant midnight blue gown. She carried herself with such strength, yet her eyes kept drifting, searching for something or someone. When their gazes met from across the room, Claire's breath caught. For a moment, the noise, the music, the glittering chandelier, everything fell away. She wasn't sure who moved first, but somehow they found themselves alone in the quiet garden behind the estate. Snowflakes drifted from the sky, settling on Addison's shoulders as she whispered that she was tired of pretending, tired of living a life dictated by rules that suffocated her. She didn't ask Claire for anything. She didn't reach for her. She only said that she felt something she couldn't ignore. Claire's heartbeat thudded painfully as she remembered every hardship, every time life had told her she didn't get to have beautiful things. She told Addison that the world didn't make space for someone like her to stand beside someone like a Whitmore. But Addison shook her head, insisting that she wasn't asking for a fairy tale, only honesty. The truth blossomed between them like warmth in the cold. And for the first time in her life, Claire let herself be honest. They didn't kiss that night. They didn't need to. What passed between them was stronger, an understanding, a beginning, a promise carved into the quiet falling snow. The weeks that followed were both beautiful and excruciating. Addison spent more time at home, finding excuses to be near Claire, sharing stories about her childhood and her regrets. Claire shared pieces of her own past, the heartbreaks, the financial struggles, the loneliness she hid behind quiet smiles. They found comfort in the parts of each other no one else ever saw. But as with any story worth telling, conflict came. Whispers grew louder. One of the senior staff members confronted Claire privately, warning her that rich people played games and that maids disappeared easily when rumors spread. Fear clawed its way into Claire's chest. She didn't want to lose the first good thing she had found in years. So she began to pull away. She worked silently, avoided Addison again, and refused to look at her for more than a second. But Addison wasn't oblivious. Late one night, she approached Claire in the service hallway, asking softly what she had done wrong. It took everything in Claire not to break. She told Addison she didn't belong in her world. That they were foolish to think anything could come from this. That she couldn't afford to lose her job over a feeling. But Addison simply stepped back, as though giving Claire room to breathe. She said she understood fear. She had lived her whole life behind it. And she didn't want Claire to choose her, it wouldn't be fair. She only hoped Claire would choose herself. Addison left her with those words, and the mansion suddenly felt colder than winter itself. For the next 2 days, Claire's thoughts churned. She had spent so much time believing she wasn't worthy of anything more than survival. But Addison had looked at her like she mattered, not as a maid, not as someone beneath her, but as a human being deserving of love, choice, and courage. Claire realized something important: fear wasn't protecting her. It was imprisoning her. On the third morning, just after dawn, Claire walked through the silent halls and found Addison standing by the large window overlooking the snowy backyard. Addison didn't speak at first. She simply waited. Claire stepped closer, her voice quiet but steady, and admitted that she was afraid, but she didn't want to let fear define her anymore. That whatever happened next, she wanted to face it with honesty instead of running from it. A slow, fragile smile formed on Addison's lips, and the sunrise spilled soft light across her face. Claire felt something inside her unlock, like she was finally stepping into a life that belonged to her. It wasn't a perfect ending. They knew they would face judgment, complications, and difficult conversations. But they also knew something else: they were not alone anymore.